All right, today we are cracking open an absolute classic, a book that has pretty much defined the self-help genre for generations, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Now, this isn't just a book, it's a whole philosophy. Hill spent decades studying the most successful people in America to figure out what was really going on in their heads. But before we get into all that, let me ask you something. Have you ever been right there, so close to hitting a goal you could practically taste it, and then you just stopped? That feeling, that sense of quitting right before the finish line is exactly where Napoleon Hill starts this entire journey. He kicks the whole thing off with this incredible story, a parable he calls 3 Feet from Gold, and honestly, it sets the stage for every single thing that comes after. So picture this, it's a gold rush. A guy named R.U. Darby and his uncle get what they called gold fever. They stake a claim out in Colorado, they start digging, and after a ton of hard work, they hit it, a vein of shining ore. They thought they were set for life, that they'd found one of the richest mines in the state. But then, just like that, it was gone. The vein just vanished. Poof! They kept drilling, desperately trying to pick up the trail again, but they found nothing. They were totally defeated. So what did they do? They quit. They sold all their machinery to a local junk man for just a few $100 and headed home. Now, the junk man, he was a pretty smart guy. He knew he wasn't a mining expert, so he hired one. An engineer came out, took a look at the mine, ran some numbers, and realized something the Derbys had no idea about: fault lines. And the engineer predicted that the gold vein was waiting just 3 feet from where the Derbys had stopped drilling. And you know what? He was exactly right. The junk man went on to make millions from that mine. And Hill uses the story to hammer home a key point. Failure is almost never the final word. In fact, it's often a sign that you are incredibly close, and that inside that failure is the seed of your success. You just have to have the persistence to find it. This whole idea leads us right into the most powerful, and maybe the most controversial idea in the entire book, that your mind has a very real, very tangible power. Hill makes this radical claim that thoughts aren't just little wisps of nothing in your head. He says they are actual things, a type of energy. And he believed that when you take a thought and you back it up with a clear purpose, with persistence, and with a burning desire, that thought has the power to literally transform into its physical version. Creating wealth, he says, starts entirely in the mind. Now, I know that might sound a little bit out there, but Hill insists this isn't just some nice theory. He saw it happen over and over again. People who applied these principles would often say that when success finally hit, it came so fast and in such huge amounts that it felt like magic. They'd wonder where all that good fortune was hiding all those years they were struggling. Just look at the story of Dr. Frank Gonzalez. For 2 whole years, he had this dream of building a new kind of college, but it was just a wish. Then, one Saturday afternoon, something snapped. He made a definite decision. I will get the $1 million I need within 1 week. What happened? Just 36 hours later, he gave a sermon with so much fire and conviction that the famous industrialist Philip D. Armour stood up and gave him the entire $1 million on the spot. It wasn't the 2 years of wishing, it was that one moment of absolute decision that made it happen. So, okay, if thoughts really can become things, how in the world do you do it? Well, Hill doesn't just leave you hanging. He actually gives you a clear, step-by-step blueprint. So here are the 4 cornerstones. First, desire. And we're not talking about a casual wish. He means a white-hot, all-consuming obsession. Second, a definite purpose. You have to know exactly what you want, down to the last detail. Third, specialized knowledge. You need to get the specific info required to make your plan work. And finally, number 4, persistence. This is the engine that drives the whole thing forward, especially when you hit those rough patches. To explain this idea of specialized knowledge, Hill tells this incredible story about Henry Ford. Ford was in court, and a lawyer was trying to make him look stupid by asking him a bunch of trivia questions. Ford finally got fed up, pointed his finger at the lawyer, and basically said this. His point was brilliant. Being educated isn't about having your head stuffed with facts. It's about knowing where to get the answers you need when you need them. And this really gets to a crucial difference Hill talks about. Schooling, he says, is often just about collecting facts, but real education is about developing your mind so you can find any knowledge you need and organize it into a plan of action. It's not what you know, it's your ability to acquire and use knowledge that matters. So what about that last part, persistence? Well, Hill brings us right back to our old friend R.U. Darby.
After failing at gold mining, Darby became a massively successful insurance salesman. And he said he learned his greatest lesson in persistence from a little girl at his uncle's mill. She needed 50 cents. His uncle yelled at her to go away, but she just stood there and screamed, "My mommy's gotta have that 50 cents. She just would not leave. She was persistent. And guess what? She got her money.
But what is it that stops most of us from being persistent, from making that definite decision? According to Hill, the enemy isn't outside of us. It's an internal saboteur he calls the 6 ghosts of fear.
Hill identified these 6 as the core fears that holds humanity back. The fear of poverty, of criticism, of ill health, of losing love, of old age, and of death. He believed these fears live deep in our subconscious, and they're the source of all the doubt, worry, and indecision that kill our dreams. You see, fear isn't just a bad feeling, it is a destructive force. It literally paralyzes the parts of your brain you need to succeed. It's like an acid that just dissolves your imagination, your willpower, and your self-reliance. Hill says if you want to achieve anything great, you first have to master these ghosts inside you. And all of this, the stories, the steps, the fears, it all leads to one final, incredibly empowering idea that ties everything together. When you boil it all down, the entire philosophy rests on this one simple truth. There is only one thing in the entire universe that you have absolute 100% control over, and that is what you choose to think. Your job, the economy, other people, you can't control any of that. But your thoughts, those are yours and yours alone to command. This idea is perfectly summed up in these famous, powerful lines from William Ernest Henley's poem, Invictus. These lines basically became the mantra for Hill's entire philosophy. But Hill did more than just quote the poem. He added his own critical insight. He said the reason we are the masters of our fate, the reason we are the captains of our soul, is because we have the power to control our thoughts. Controlling your mind is the steering wheel. It's how you direct your life to any destination you choose. So, in the end, Hill's entire philosophy is really a challenge. It's a challenge to take complete ownership of your mind. And it leaves every single one of us with a question that's both simple and life-changing. If your thoughts truly create your reality, what thought are you going to choose to master today?